Hey everybody, this is Perch, and responding to a viewer question here. It's the weekend, so I'm catching up on mail. It's a lot. What always is funny is when I don't pay a lot of attention to mail during the week because I'm busy or things are going on, and then I finally catch up and I'm looking through there and like, holy crap, there's some time sensitive stuff. Or well, I'll put this way, which hopefully I don't know if this is going to give people comfort or not, but it's pretty common that I get mail from, creators, pretty big names, I would say, and just regular fans and everything else. And I will tell you, I am crappy at responding to everyone equally. So I'm going through here and it's like, oh crap, I should get back to this guy about an interview. And he's been waiting for like four weeks. That sucks. I feel like a douche, but anyway, at least everybody is being treated with the same equal lack of care. This is a good question here, though. Let's get into it. It's from Jimmy, and Jimmy writes, "Hey Perch, I hope you've been well." That's nice of you. I know you get a lot of messages and you're pretty busy, but I figured I would send you a question your way just in case it might inspire a thought for a video. Well, here we are. I'm curious, since Disney owns Marvel, why don't they print comics with some of their other brands like Indiana Jones, Gargoyles, or Mickey Mouse, etc.? I know they want to expand their market. Wouldn't this be a way to attract a younger audience? Do they still see potential in comics after trying it out with Boom and IDW? Maybe they mainly associate comics with superheroes. Anyway, thank you for all the content you put out. I learned a lot, still enjoying One Piece. That's awesome. I'm glad you're enjoying One Piece. Well, this is a good question, and this is where I'm going to be very negative. I think that Disney, and I think the same thing is largely true of Warner or AT&T or Discovery, whoever you want to put into that mix. I think they have given up on comics and print as a viable way to do much of anything. I don't think it's not costing them enough trouble and concern that they want to come through and kill it. And there still is licensing money they get. And I think they still view it as IP generation and marketing. But they probably refer to it as what big companies often call second stage marketing. This is sometimes called remnant marketing. This is marketing you don't kill. You don't kill because it's not costing you money. And the reality is, I actually haven't heard anybody say this in a while, so maybe people have gotten over it. Marvel and DC are not losing money. They're not spending more money than they're bringing in. They are bringing in money. They're cash flow positive. The challenge is they're not massively cash flow positive. They're not just bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars at all. Nobody's doing that on their own. Certainly as a combined business unit for sure, but it's not like the Heroes Were Born Avengers event made $200 million. It did not. It's one of those things where it's profitable to the point that nobody's going to come in there and whack it, and it's not a distraction for the larger corporations, so they just kind of keep it going. But at the same time, it's not making enough money, and it's not seen as forward thinking enough that anybody comes in there and goes, hey, let's really try and optimize it, make it better, and everything else. Nobody is doing that either. And from Disney's perspective, they're not thinking about comics as a good mechanism to go after kids. They should. To your point, I think Indiana Jones, Gargoyles, Mickey Mouse. I mean, Gargoyles is a hell of a franchise that they could do things with. Obviously, the whole Mickey Mouse and the gang and the princesses and everything else, they basically dipped their toe in the water by doing kind of princess comics and other things that have been sold at Target and other places. And here's a dirty secret that may make everybody a little depressed. The princesses comic deal that they did that went to Walmart and Target, and I think Barnes & Noble and some of the other big box stores, apparently had somewhere between 1 to 2 million print run for this comic. It was like a comic OGN. At any rate, it did better than any of the stuff that is published monthly from Marvel and DC. And the reason it did that well, of course, is because it went to the big box stores and they bought 100 copies each, and there you go. It also went internationally. It was printed with, I think, some localized pieces in it, just baked in. So in theory, I guess that saves on print runs. These things do well. I do think that there's probably a major opportunity. I mean, Christ, if you're Disney, putting out an Indiana Jones kind of graphic novel comic book series that's shuffled through Scholastic and going through the schools, you'd have to age it down a little bit, but not much. Indiana Jones is pretty okay. I think it would do great, but there is a very hardened belief. I believe at AT&T, Warner, and maybe Discovery, but I believe it's there. I know it's there at Disney. I know it firsthand. I know it's there at Disney. That comic books, kids aren't reading comic books. that's an old-fashioned thing, that's a remnant from a past time, and they're much more interested in digital activities and other things like that. And so they're just not doing anything with it. They're ignoring it. I think that's wrong. I think Scholastic proves that pretty aggressively. And I do think, as I've said in many videos before, and forget for a moment if you believe in whatever ideology is going to come, put that aside for just a second. The thing that comic publishers should be very concerned with, I've said this before, is that kids are coming into entertainment. And when they're coming into entertainment, I have 2 kids. I've watched the process firsthand. Anyone who has kids will tell you the same. The kids are pretty, they're drawn to different things, but they're not baked and wired just to go for screens. They will like to read. They will like to use screens, like to use toys, like to use everything. Kids really kind of explore everything they can get their hands on. And so what you see happening is that in many cases, they're still learning. It's a template waiting to be formed. And my daughter just came in here and gave me a little heart symbol with their hands, and that's cute. I appreciate that. Anyway, it's not like kids by the time they're 4 will only look at a phone and that's all they'll do. If you just give them the phone, and the phone is a very, something that they can completely get absorbed into, they'll still pick up a comic book and read it. And what we're seeing Scholastic do very effectively with Dog Man and kind of some of these other titles, Mayor Good Boy, is that the kids are reading that. And then eventually they get tired. They want to read something else. They go to school. School's going to require them to read books and other things. And they're going to search out for other comics to read. But the problem is, because there is no Disney comics, no Indiana Jones, no Gargoyles, no Teen Titans for kids or any of that. And I know there's a few of those books out there, but not many is my point. They're scarce, and they're not distributed places where the kids are. The kids are basically just turning to the next thing, which is manga. And actually, kids were turning to manga, I don't know, a couple years ago. I have this theory, by the way, that this big manga boom that's happened over the last kind of 2 years was happening about 5 years ago. It's just people weren't necessarily noticing it. The kids were picking it up in school, in libraries, wherever it is. They were picking it up and they're getting hooked on it. And then as they have some buying power, either from their own money or they're older and they're starting to ask for things, then you're seeing them ask for manga. It's selling in stores. And the manga boom didn't just happen overnight. People didn't just wake up one day and said, you know what, I think I'll read manga. They were led to it, and they've been reading it for a while, and we're just now noticing it. But what's happening is we're seeing this entire generation go from kind of early kid type stuff, which is being served by Scholastic, into manga. And they're bypassing, things like Mickey Mouse and Indiana Jones and Marvel. And yes, those movies are doing great, but kind of like, if my theory is correct, and kids were adopting manga actually several years ago, and we're just now starting to see the payoff of it in terms of products sold, then what does this mean is going to happen 10 years from now? I think what's going to happen is you're going to see a huge pendulum shift in that direction. And you're going to see, Marvel and others having to struggle to get interest in these things. I mean, I'll already tell you, it was easier to get my daughters into Spider-Man and the Avengers and that kind of stuff. They liked it. And this is, obviously their dad runs a comic store. So they're going to be more predisposed to that. But today, if it's One Piece, if it's My Hero Academia, if it's Demon Slayer, if it's Cells at Work, that kind of stuff, that's always going to be what they pick. We have this situation right now where, Funimation's up, Disney Plus is right next to it on Apple TV. And it's like, what do you want to watch? It's like, oh, there's a new episode of What If? The kid's like, no, we'd rather watch, there's a new episode of My Hero Academia that was dubbed. We'd rather watch that. Oh, there's another season of Cells at Work. We'd rather watch that. They are picking other things. So sorry, I went astray from your question a little bit, but absolutely Disney should do this. Now, AT&T, Discovery, Warner Brothers is a gigantic effing mess. And I don't want anybody to assume that I'm now saying, oh, the company's going to shut down next month. I know those rumors happened earlier this year, but they're in trouble. Make no mistake about it. It's a mess over there. And they're sitting on really great IP with Superman and Batman, all the rest of that kind of stuff. And because of that, they're always going to leverage it. They're always going to do something with that IP. But it's not healthy. It's not going to die. It's not a terminal patient, but it's not a healthy patient either. And that's got to get repaired. But absolutely, Disney should do this. They should do it now. And probably what Disney should be doing, and this makes my heart hurt a little bit, they should not be going to Marvel. They should be going to Scholastic and saying, here's Indiana Jones, here's Mickey Mouse, here's Gargoyles, here's a few other things that we own. Let's make some series and find some people and do it. That is exactly what they should be doing right now. They need to for their own survival and future, quite frankly. But great question. Thank you very much for asking. Unfortunately, I think that they did license this stuff off to people like Boom and IDW, who proceeded to put those books out in comic book stores where the kids weren't at. And so their view of this entire space is pretty negative. And it doesn't need to be that way. So somebody will come along with a better business proposition and we'll see it all work. But thank you, Jimmy. Great question. Thank you very much. And thanks for listening. For all the rest of you, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course. And thanks for listening.